Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're setting sail into the world of Indian shipbuilding and defense. Get ready to uncover the secrets of Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Ltd, better known as MDL.
And trust me, there's a lot to uncover. This company's not just building ships, they're building India's naval future.
Absolutely, and we've got a stack of sources to navigate today. We have MDL's unaudited financial results for the second quarter of fiscal year 2024-2025, plus the recent corporate presentation and even the auditor's report. I'm already intrigued. Did you know they're the only shipyard in India building both destroyers and submarines? Plus, they just dropped a bombshell announcement, their highest ever dividend payout.
Definitely a strong signal. And to understand why, we need to understand what MDL is all about.
Okay, let's set the stage. What exactly does MDL do, and what makes them so unique in the Indian landscape?
Well, MDL is a public sector undertaking, meaning it's owned by the Indian government. Their bread and butter, building warships and submarines for the Indian Navy. But they also dabble in merchant and offshore vessels, showing some diversification in their portfolio.
So they're not just about military might.
Exactly. But their naval focus is key. They've earned the coveted Navratna status. That's a special designation for top-performing public sector enterprises in India. Think of it as the government's seal of approval for excellence and efficiency.
I see. And their history goes way back, right?
Way back. We're talking about a legacy that stretches all the way to the 18th century. They were officially incorporated in 1934, but their roots lie in the colonial era. Imagine that, building ships for the British East India Company. And now, leading India's charge toward naval self-reliance.
That's a pretty incredible transformation. What kind of projects are they tackling now that showcase this expertise?
Some impressive feats, to say the least. Between 2017 and 2022, they delivered all 5 Cavalry-class submarines, a huge leap forward for India's underwater capabilities. Right now, they're in the thick of building 4 P-15B destroyers, state-of-the-art warships that are set to become the backbone of the Indian Navy.
Wow. With all this in mind, let's dive into those financial results. The first thing that pops out is the revenue growth in Q2 of fiscal year 2025. It's a massive jump, significantly exceeding both the previous quarter and the same period last year.
Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves. Revenue from operations hit a staggering 2,756.83 crore in Q2 FY25. Compare that to 2,357.02 crore in Q1 FY25 and 1,827.70 crore in Q2 FY23. This explosive growth is likely fueled by those big-ticket projects we mentioned, especially the P-15B destroyers and P-17A stealth frigates.
And they're not just meeting deadlines, they're smashing them. I read that MDL delivered the third P-15B destroyer 5 months ahead of schedule.
Right. Talk about efficiency. This is even more remarkable given the global supply chain snarls and chip shortages that have been plaguing industries worldwide. MDL is clearly running a tight ship, pun intended.
Yeah, that operational efficiency is definitely reflected in their profitability. Both profit before tax and profit after tax have shot up year on year.
For Q2 FY25, their standalone profit before tax landed at a handsome 751.48 crore. A significant leap from 415.71 crore in Q2 FY23. What's impressive is that it's not just about growing profits. Their operating margins remain healthy, likely driven by this efficient project execution. And, as you hinted at earlier, a very robust order book.
So let's talk about that order book. It's sitting at a whopping 39,872 crore as of September 30th, 2024. That's a clear indicator of a steady stream of revenue for MDL in the coming years. What exactly is filling up this order book?
Think of it as a wish list for India's naval ambitions. We've got the P-15B destroyers and P-17A stealth frigates we discussed, the ongoing P-75 Cavalry submarine project, and even contracts with ONGC, India's leading oil and gas exploration company. This diversification into the energy sector shows that they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
And then there's that record-breaking dividend announcement. MDL declared an interim dividend of 23.19 per share for FY25, the highest in their history.
This is where it gets really interesting. A dividend payout of this magnitude is more than just good news for investors. It's a sign of immense confidence in their future prospects.
It makes you wonder, what's driving this confidence? Is it simply the strong financial performance we've seen, or is there more to the story?
That's a great question. And to answer it, we need to look beyond the numbers. We need to consider the strategic factors at play, government policies, India's defense ambitions, and even the global geopolitical landscape.
Okay, you've piqued my curiosity. Let's unpack those strategic factors and see how they're shaping MDL's journey.
Yeah, so a big piece of the puzzle here is the Indian government's push to bolster its defense capabilities. Government policies and defense procurement initiatives have played a huge role in MDL's success.
So MDL is riding the wave of India's ambition to become a major naval power.
Exactly. The government has made it clear that they want to reduce their reliance on foreign suppliers for defense equipment. This translates into a hefty pipeline of projects for domestic shipyards like MDL.
And we're seeing that play out in the contracts for destroyers, frigates, and submarines. It seems like India is serious about building a modern, self-sufficient navy, but is this just about new ships, or is there more to it?
It's not just about building new ships. It's also about maintaining and modernizing the existing fleet. MDL is heavily involved in things like the medium refit and life certification, or MRLC for short, of submarines. This ensures that India's naval force is always combat ready.
So it's a two-pronged approach: build new and keep the old in top shape. This indigenization, as you called it, sounds like a big deal. What are the implications beyond just boosting the Navy?
Indigenization is about more than just defense. It's about strengthening India's overall strategic autonomy. It reduces dependence on other countries, creates jobs, and boosts technological development. It's a win-win situation for India.
It sounds like MDL is at the heart of this national strategy. But to stay ahead in any industry, you need to constantly innovate. What's MDL doing in terms of R&D, research and development?
They're not resting on their laurels. MDL is investing heavily in R&D to push the boundaries of shipbuilding technology. Think stealth, automation, and advanced materials. These advancements could make their vessels more competitive and open up new markets for them.
Imagine MDL building ships that are stealthier, more efficient, and packed with cutting-edge tech. That would be a game changer in the global shipbuilding landscape.
Absolutely. Investing in R&D is a long-term game, but it's essential for a company like MDL that wants to be a global leader.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Strong financials, government support, a robust order book, diversification, and commitment to R&D. What does this all mean for someone who might be interested in investing in MDL or simply understanding its future prospects?
What we're seeing is a company firing on all cylinders. They're financially solid, operationally efficient, and strategically positioned to benefit from India's naval ambitions.
They're not just riding the wave, they're building the wave.
Exactly. And their move into new areas like oil and gas and international commercial shipbuilding shows they're not afraid to explore new horizons. But perhaps the most important takeaway is that MDL is a company that's looking ahead, embracing innovation, and investing in its future.
We talked about the record dividends earlier. Do you think that's partly a move to attract investors who are looking for companies with a solid track record and a bright future?
It's definitely a factor. That dividend is a signal to the market that MDL is confident in its ability to generate strong returns for its shareholders.
Now we've been focusing on the big picture, but something else caught my eye in the materials you provided. MDL won an award for DEI Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. What's the significance of that in the context of a shipbuilding company? I wouldn't immediately connect those two worlds.
It's a great observation, and it speaks to a broader trend in the corporate world. Building complex ships requires a diverse range of skills, perspectives, and backgrounds. You need engineers, welders, designers, project managers, and so much more.
So it's not just about technical expertise, it's about creating a work environment where different voices are heard and valued.
Exactly. By fostering a culture of inclusion, MDL can attract and retain top talent from all walks of life. And that diversity of thought and experience is crucial for innovation and problem solving, especially in a complex industry like shipbuilding.
It seems like they're not just adapting to the changing demographics of India's workforce, they're actively embracing it as a source of strength.
Right. A company that reflects the diversity of its customer base and society is better equipped to understand and meet their needs.
So we've got a company that's financially strong, strategically positioned, and committed to inclusivity. It all sounds very promising. But let's be realistic. No investment is without its risks. What are some of the potential challenges or risks that investors or anyone following MDL should be aware of?
One challenge is the inherent cyclicality of the shipbuilding industry. Demand for new ships can fluctuate based on global economic conditions, geopolitical tensions, and even changes in government policies. Even with a healthy order book like MDL's, there's no guarantee that demand will stay consistent in the long run.
So it's not a set it and forget it's investment. Investors need to keep an eye on the bigger picture and how it might impact MDL's business.
Exactly. Another risk is competition. The global shipbuilding market is fierce. South Korea, China, and Japan are major players, and they're constantly innovating and pushing for market share.
So even with government support, MDL can't afford to become complacent. They need to keep pushing the boundaries of technology and efficiency to stay ahead of the curve.
Precisely. And let's not forget about geopolitical risks. India's strategic location and its growing naval ambitions could put it in the middle of regional tensions. MDL's primary customer is the Indian Navy, so any conflict or escalation could impact their operations and financial performance.
It's a reminder that even the most successful companies are vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of global events. So for investors, it's about weighing the potential rewards against these risks and making informed decisions based on their own goals and risk tolerance.
Well said. And for anyone interested in the future of shipbuilding, MDL's journey provides valuable insights into the trends, challenges, and opportunities that are shaping this dynamic industry. It's a fascinating case study.
Speaking of journeys, we briefly touched on MDL's rich history earlier. You mentioned their roots go back to the 18th century. It's amazing to think that a company with such humble beginnings has evolved into the shipbuilding giant it is today.
Yeah, their story is intertwined with the history of Mumbai itself and the evolution of India's maritime ambitions. It's a story worth diving into.
I'm ready to set sail back in time. Let's uncover the story of how this shipbuilding powerhouse came to be. All right, so we're stepping back in time to 1774, British colonial rule in India. It all started with a simple dry dock built by the East India Company on the western coast in what we now know as Mumbai. It's hard to believe that this humble beginning would one day lead to the shipbuilding powerhouse MDL is today.
It really is. It highlights how strategic decisions and adapting to the times can lead to incredible transformations over centuries. That very first dry dock set the stage for Mumbai becoming a major player in the shipbuilding world.
And then, of course, came India's independence in 1947. I imagine that was a pivotal turning point for MDL.
Absolutely. With independence, India's focus shifted towards self-reliance, especially when it came to defense. Shipbuilding became a national priority. The government understood the strategic importance of a strong navy to protect their vast coastline and maritime interests.
So MDL transitioned from serving a colonial power to playing a key role in building up an independent India's naval capabilities.
Right, and they really rose to the challenge. In 1960, MDL delivered its first warship, the INS Nilgiri. It was a huge milestone for India's shipbuilding industry, marking a shift away from relying on foreign suppliers. They were building warships at home.
Wow, and they didn't stop there. They ventured into submarine construction in the 1970s. Then, in 1992, they delivered their first indigenously built submarine, the INS Shalki. That must have been an incredible moment for MBL and for India.
It really was a game changer. Submarines are incredibly complex and technologically challenging to build. MDL's success demonstrated their growing expertise and put India on the map in terms of underwater warfare capabilities.
So from a small dry dock in the 18th century to building destroyers and submarines by the late 20th century, what a journey. But I'm sure it wasn't all smooth sailing. What were some of the biggest hurdles MDL had to overcome?
Well, like any success story, there were definitely challenges along the way. They had to deal with complex technological advancements, economic ups and downs, and even geopolitical tensions. But throughout it all, they've shown an impressive ability to adapt, innovate, and emerge stronger.
They weathered the storms and came out on top. And from what we've seen today, they're not slowing down. They're exploring new markets, embracing new technologies, and looking towards the future with ambition.
Exactly. Their story demonstrates the resilience of the human spirit, the power of innovation, and the importance of shipbuilding in shaping a nation's destiny.
MDL's story is both inspiring and thought-provoking. As we wrap up this deep dive, it makes me wonder what lessons we can take away from their journey and apply to our own lives, whether it's in our careers or the challenges we face in our own endeavors. What do you think?
That's a great question to consider. Perhaps it's the importance of embracing change, adapting to new realities, and never losing sight of the long-term vision. Or maybe it's about the power of collaboration, dedication to excellence, and the belief that even the most complex challenges can be overcome with ingenuity and perseverance.
Whatever the lesson may be, MDL's journey reminds us that even amidst the complexities of global finance and geopolitics, there are human stories of resilience, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of excellence.
And those are stories worth exploring, understanding, and celebrating.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Ltd. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and gained some valuable insights along the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.